Good evening, everyone. We're going to have a special board meeting tonight. It is about 6:03, I think, something like that. We're close to it. I'd like to do a roll call. Elizabeth Martinez.
Present.
Kathy Toasty. Here. And Lisa Marks.
Here.
Carla Torres de Luna.
Here.
And I'm here as well, so everybody is present. Let's do our flag salute. And Kathy, you want to lead the song, please?
Salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. May I get a motion to approve the agenda? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, 5-0. Let's see. Do we have a public comment? Yes?
Yes. Yes, we have one public comment. Yeah. It says, good evening, President Grist, Board of Trustees, and Superintendent Sanchez. ESTA has some questions we hope we can get answered during tonight's presentation on the budget revision. Number one, is this information being developed from district projections, or has the district officially been informed of these outcomes by the San Benito County Office of Ed? Number two, where exactly is the $1.6 million budgeted for other outgo going this year and in the coming years? Number three, why don't we have 5,305 students in the first interim, even though ADA was hold harmless for last year? Why? Number four, why are we increasing the budget for books and supplies by $3.8 million when we have already recently replaced most of our curriculum? Number five, how do we expect to close books with less money than our July 1st assumptions, even though we received $7.2 million more than the July 1st budget? Number six, we spent $7 million less in salaries in the previous year's unaudited actuals, which would lead us to expect health benefits to decrease, but instead they increased by $1.8 million over the July budget, and specifically $1.1 million over the 19-20 unaudited actuals. How is that? And thank you for your patience with the wordiness of some of our questions and with your help in our understanding of these matters. We look forward to the answers. Sincerely, Angela Higgins, ESTA President. And that's the only public comment.
Okay, thank you. We have here now, we're going to have, we do have one consent item. So, do I have a motion to accept the consent item?
I make a motion that we approve 5A.
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Okay. Now, here's the meat and potatoes. Discussion action item, the 45-day budget revision. Sarah?
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So today I'm here to present to you our 45-day budget revision. So part of the revision process is due to the fact that the governor's budget trailer bills were not passed until after our budget was adopted on June 30th. So on July 9th, there was a new, the trailer bills were approved, meaning that there were new additions to expenses that were given to not all schools, but some schools. So first off, I wanted to start with saying some of the updates that we anticipate seeing in the future. So all LEAs are now required to offer independent study programs and updated the provisions on those. So while we had RISE program here, it did not necessarily fit what the state of California is saying should be an independent study program. So they offer extended funding with us to be able to expand our courses and allowances on the number of students in our program. So that's one thing that changed. Another thing is there is now set up a path to achieve universal TK by 2025. So we don't have the funding necessarily that we've received nor a plan in place yet, but that was noted as something that will come in the future. And then universal free lunch, which we know that all students will be receiving in our district. And then there was another thing, which is a caveat, and it's updated safety plans due to COVID. So what were to happen, how we're opening schools, and then what were to happen if we go back into having not classes in person again and having to go back to remote work. So those are some of the things in the trailer bills. So with that, it gives us opportunity to revise our budget. So some of the revenue components that I wanted to point out are our enrollment at 5547. So that enrollment is based off of 1920, which is the hold harmless from the state of California. So we're able to use 1920 for 2021 numbers, and 21-22 we can adjust as the year goes on. But since we don't have exact enrollment now, we're leaving it at 2021 and 1920 numbers until we have updated ADA. We are expecting to increase our enrollment to about 5,600, which would lead to an additional increase from the state of California based off our enrollment in ADA. With that being said, our ADA was at 5,305 based off of our enrollment at 5547. If we go up, obviously our ADA would increase to 5,313, which is giving us opportunity to then receive more funding. But for budget revision purposes, we left the numbers because we don't know since school, is just starting. That is something that we can update in first interim, and then again, second interim, we'll have P1 numbers, so it'll be very specific as to how many students actually attended school for the first half of the year. Our lottery revenue and our lottery revenue stayed the same at 150 for ADA for unrestricted purposes and 49 for restricted, so we know that there is no increase in the lottery. So for our purposes of budget revision, with the retirement incentives and the raises given to employees, we had allocated a set amount aside for paying those employees. And as a result of that, we actually show that in our out years, we're unable to meet our economic reserve requirement minimum of 3%. So in our multi-year projections, we're able to make everything ends meet this year, and then next year we're able to make ends meet, but we wouldn't have the 3%, and the year following that, neither one. So we do have to adjust our budget for this year. And one of the good things about budget revision is that we have, usually you would have first interim as a chance to make your adjustments, but that's not until December. So at that point, if we made budget decisions, it would be really late into the year. So seeing this in budget revision gives us the time to make decisions financially that would help impact the district and put us in a more positive place come December. So there are some solutions that I wanted to note about how we can help balance the budget for this upcoming year. So there were budget discussions on July 13th that we're kind of come up with to figure out how we can work towards more financial and fiscal solvency for our district. So our goal obviously is we want to provide the essential services to students. We are here for the students. So how can we give the students everything they need, maintain our staffing ratios and our staff employment while still cutting where we can? So we have some recommendations that I wanted to go through. Freezing conferences. So this is kind of a good time for freezing some conferences because of travel and COVID. It's still okay that people are not out traveling. But for example, in 1920, which is in 1819, before COVID happened, we have spent $161,000 on travel for conferences alone. So not traveling does save a large amount of money. Another reduction would be the Hollister 6-to-6 program. It has not yet been implemented, so we can wait until we're able to financially cover that program. Also reducing non-essential expenditures. So if there are items that someone wants but doesn't need for a program, then we would put those to the side for now during this budget. Another thing is implementing the goldenrod process. So anytime a purchase is made by anyone at a school site or the district office, they would have to write down all the information on the goldenrod and send it to the business department, where we would assess their budget and see what it is it essential, how does it affect the budget, how does it affect the students they're supporting, is it really necessary? It would be approved by the business department and then superintendent before it would be able to be purchased. Also, utilizing free and low-cost professional development. I receive emails, for example, every day about different webinars that are free and different trainings that could be attended. So I think that the district can utilize that to help fill some gaps. Maybe people want to travel and go to certain conferences, but they potentially could have that information available online or for a low cost or free. So utilizing those resources. A reduction in the investment in LEGO curriculum and professional development, followed by a reduction in the San Benito County Art Council contract by $200,000, which still gives above and beyond for what the students had previously. Another option is using intervention teachers to fill vacancies, and right now 2 intervention teachers have been placed in positions, so that is something that we could look at further. We also have hired 5 certificated staff to accommodate the increase in enrollment. So hopefully the increase in enrollment, hiring more teachers, but we'll receive more of that funding due to the ADA and enrollment increases. We also have 1 full-time assistant principal for Rancho San Justo based on the enrollment. And we want to backfill specific classified positions due to the increase in enrollment. So we need to make sure that our staffing levels are proportionate to the students that we have in the district. We also have a focused approach on increasing and maintaining student attendance to drive ADA. So trying to make sure that students are coming to school, what can we do that's free or low cost to have students excited and motivated to attend school every day. We also want to maintain site budget status quo. So no changes to site budgets, no increases, no decreases, everyone gets the same amount as they had previously. And then a focused approach to lowering legal counsel costs. So not everybody calling an attorney for everything, but more structured, more, filtered to go through the superintendent's office, and that way we don't have everyone calling all the time and increasing those fees. Also the alternative income application. So that's really important because we also have funding based on that. Regardless of you qualifying, that really helps us to see the amount of students that we have that are eligible for specific programs, and that means that we could potentially get more money from the state. So we really need to get the message out to the parents and to the schools that filling this out is really important. And maybe you think you don't qualify, but regardless, that information is so important to us to know where we're getting funding from and what we can get funded. Some other adjustments, we had like I noted, we had to increase the 5 certificated staff hires for enrollment. Let's see. Oh, okay. So that's it. So there are some changes that are happening to the budget in addition to having to cut down some places we do have to add. So we recognize that we are here for students and student services and support. Pupil support is really important. So while there's these budget reductions that need to be made, we do recognize on the other side that we do need to account for making sure the students have their teachers' class sizes that what they're supposed to be at. So with that being said, our budget and multi-year projections don't support that we're able to meet the obligations in the 2 out years. We're remaining committed to LCAP funding programs, so we need to make sure that we are prioritizing the items that are in the LCAP in terms of our budget. And we just need to make adjustments to the expenditures outside of LCAP, outside of the necessary student programs in order to remain fiscally solvent in how we use.
So do you have the paperwork that you're going to hand in to the county?
Yes, this
presentation goes to the county.
Oh, we don't have how they do the numbers with the qualified?
No, they require us to submit what was presented to the board, which is a presentation.
Oh, okay, so it's different now. Okay.
We're not required to do the whole SACs
No.
Oh, okay,
with the budget
okay,
revision.
right, okay, so it's different, okay. Good. I guess I have a couple of questions, if I may. Our primary revenue components, from very nicely, Erica has been giving us enrollment numbers since July. And our enrollment numbers have gone up 68 students since July. So just, you know, a round number of 10,000, that's $680,000. And that was by last Friday, so we haven't seen the children in the seats yet. Did you get some numbers for the?
I did for closed session.
Yeah, oh, well, I'd like to hear them now, that's okay. What, how many kids do we have total for yesterday and today? Do you have a total number?
So for yesterday, the enrollment is 5801.
Okay,
For today, the enrollment is 5813. For the attendance, which drives the ADA, the 2 days combined is 5766.63.
okay. So that's much higher than
What we projected.
what we projected in ADA and also in enrollment.
Yes, so we have to ensure that we're able to actually hit the enrollment numbers before we project that. So that's part of the whole first interim when we make that adjustment in December, because we'll be able to certify, we have to send in our information enrollment ADA to CalPADS in October. And so then we'll use those numbers to adjust in first interim. So this gives us some time to have students, if they fall off or move or whatever it may be, we can make the adjustment for that.
Okay, and Sarah, I don't, and these are just questions because, you know, I used to wear a different hat. I used to be HESTA president for a long time and a negotiator for HESTA. And one of the things that we were always trained is that in books and supplies, you know, that's where districts like to hide some money. And we did buy a lot of stuff last year. Do we expect the same amount of investment for this year as last year, if we spent it all last year? These are things that, you know, we're gonna have to say to our labor and community, how come we're spending the same amount of money if we already bought all of the product last year? Aren't those books and stuff gonna be good for the following year? And so these are things that, you know, I understand they always ask you to be very conservative, and we get that, because we don't wanna go. Last thing we wanna do is sink the ship. But we also have to be pragmatic. And so when we're, one of the things that we need to be transparent about is where we put our numbers and that our numbers can be backed up. And so I know that we're going through this and we'll have another round at it. But I think that I'm glad that you did this tonight, and I appreciate what you've done. I know that it's been a long process, and but I think that there's a lot of questions that we still need to answer.
Can I follow up on that?
Yes.
So is that something that we did do? Did we increase the books and supplies?
So yes, and to say that we adopted the LCAP, so those increases in books and supplies are taken directly from what was approved at LCAP. So that is the new adoptions that we're using. A lot of that is for EL, to help get EL up to date with books. So one example is history books for EL is included in LCAP, and that's some of the increase in books and supplies. So those are actually directly correlated. So anytime that there would be like an adjustment in LCAP, then we would have to go back and adjust the books and supplies.
So what I'm asking you, I guess, is to look to see when we paid for it. Did we pay for it last year, or did we pay
No,
for
it's
it?
So this is the
coming year.
LCAP future goal, right?
Yes,
So
for
we,
this year.
But they have the books now.
No, these are, going to be bought for the ELDs for this year, is what I'm assuming, because they want to introduce the new updated versions for ELDs in books and supplies, but it would come out of this year's budget.
We also had projected to start Hollister 6 to 6, which is a brand new program.
Right,
so
I know, that
materials
didn't
are gonna
happen.
go to there. In the LCAP, we also projected $970,000, almost $1 million for professional development. That's gonna come out of this
Right,
budget.
right,
So
right.
there's a lot of different action steps that
That are still not
But
done.
do the children
Okay.
have the social studies books now?
No, so there's new adopted materials that we're getting just with the approval of LCAP that come in.
See, I thought they were starting the year with them now.
So these are items that have been purchased like in the summer for the start of the school year. So with LCAP, you know how it has like the three, obviously
Right,
the
so
3
they
years,
were,
so
they were
there's one
purchased
piece.
this July and
Exactly.
not in June.
Exactly.
But see, that's my question is that, you know, the correlation between the LCAP and what we stated we were going to do, and now with these reductions, consolidating the two is gonna be extremely difficult because to be completely transparent, it's so hard to then say, if you're, you know, cause I'm a visual person, I gotta see it, you know, either on a board or whatever, or on paper, so that we knew, like this piece, you know, that you're going back to now the LCAP and this line item here, specifically calling it out why, you know, the increase was, what it was for. And I think for most folks, even our community, don't know the correlation between the two or the increases or decreases based on what we approved in the LCAP. And even for us, there's so much in the LCAP,
Right.
and I can honestly tell you, I don't know what I approved, because there's
Yep.
just so much.
And we've mixed it.
And then now we're trying to cut and trim some areas that I don't know where, now to go back to the LCAP, where are we gonna trim? And so what does that mean for the LCAP and our outcome, you know, changing this? Because we have to pull it from somewhere, and it's, in some effects, we are gonna affect what we stated in the LCAP as our promise to what we were gonna provide, right, as services to our kids. So I think that, for me, is how do we now consolidate the two so that we are clear on what that looks like, the community's clear, our staff is clear, so that there isn't like this perception that we're doing things that we,
Well, and
I
I,
think
know,
Erica
should
wants
we
to
do it?
speak here.
okay,
Go ahead, Erica.
I think that's a perfect question and a segue because it's all tying together. So we're revising the budget, but we've also received communication from the County Office of Ed that we will be in need to revise and reapprove the LCAP. And the LCAP itself, the document will be revised with the team, an internal team, but also with the team at the County Office of Ed. And then each change that we make is going to be reflected in a change in the budget. So for example, if we're taking out Hollister 6 to 6 or freezing it, we're going to have to reflect it in the budget.
Right.
So not only is the narrative of the document gonna change, but also the budget line items are going to change.
So
That process is going to start yesterday. So we will have much more information that's very accurate and real, because we're going to have to publicly bring it forward to the board and discuss the new LCAP.
Right.
Or the revised LCAP.
Right.
And consider it for approval.
okay, so our community will know exactly where the money is, okay.
and I think, and I also thank you for all the work. I know that, you know, for you, you're like, I'm just a messenger, and then, you know,
We know that.
We know that, I think it's just, you know, you have to direct the question to somebody, but, and this is a collective effort. We know what we talked about, and I think it is gonna be helpful, you know, when, Interim Superintendent Erica, when you all put like this number 2 LCAP, right? This is, okay, and then we have the budget, and then we're like, oh, here it is. So that is gonna be able to help us then kind of match and be like, okay, whatever amount of money is being taken out, awesome. what else do we have, right? And then I think that's gonna make everybody, the community and, you know, with Angela's questions as well, we'll be able to understand it
Mhm.
better. But, I wanna make sure, like, you know, she brought up some, I mean, she must have been doing her homework. She had a lot of good questions.
Oh, yeah, no, the CPA is really good about helping, you know, understand things and put things in perspective, and we want to respect their work. So is CSEA, they're very good at all of this.
Right.
And they're good partners to have in understanding the budget. And I think that redoing the LCAP and the work that we're doing here, and I think, I feel very good that we're having these honest, open discussions, and we'll find what's going on. And I do think and maybe I'm just wishing and hoping we're low on enrollment at ADA. I do believe that, and I think that's gonna solve a lot of our problems. Because I don't know if you've read anything on the census, I've been keeping up with the census, and Hollister City has grown by 17%, and children 5 and under by 7%. So there's been growth, you know, which means that our ADA has to have been, you know, and I think we need to do a big program on attendance. I think that we need to start doing incentives about attendance and having children come, even though we're in a pandemic. They're not sick, they should be here. And we need to encourage that. So, but I wanna thank, I know that everybody's been working very, very hard. Very, very hard. And I know that. And we appreciate it, we respect this hard work, and I think we got a ways to go.
Can we, there was one question that was asked that I didn't understand or have an answer for. I don't know, maybe you all do, but the last question that was posed about, we spent 7 million less in salaries in the previous year, unaudited actuals, which would lead us to expect health benefits to decrease, but instead increase by 1.8 in the July budget, and specifically 1.1 over the 19-20 unaudited. Is that accurate? And do you know about that piece?
Well, if those are 1920, then we had 2021,
Okay.
and then 21-22 is what we're looking at. And then there's the cost of the raises, so that impacts the out years. And then we also always increase
That's what.
The
health
health and welfare
benefits.
cap
every
as
single
well.
year. We make sure that our employees have increased health and welfare benefit caps.
But this year itself, the cap was actually raised,
The
right?
cap was raised.
Yeah.
It was
Because I
raised
know
in
there was
July.
a floating cap in the past, right? It would be based on a certain plan at whatever, so if the plan went up 3%, whatever percent,
Yeah,
you know, that was the
the
floating
district
cap.
is picking up the
Right.
tab, yeah.
But now, so do we have a hard cap? Are we saying we established a hard cap, but it was increased to
And it was increased.
whatever it was per?
17,249.
Okay. So that is gonna
That's
play a big part into the increases.
Yeah. We don't have a hard cap.
For administrators, we have a hard cap.
I thought it was in the negotiations that the health and welfare had been increased to the 17 as a hard cap. I thought that's what I had read in the TA that I saw, the most recent one.
I think it's still the 90%,
For the employees.
except for administrators, they have
Well,
that hard cap.
what I, what
Yeah.
you sent me was what I
I'll
read
look
in
back.
the,
Can we
I thought it was,
double check?
that's what was recently negotiated. Because you would know, because that's what you have to base
Yeah.
the budget on health and welfare as
It
well.
might be, yeah. I have a lot of numbers in my head.
Because that's a hard,
Yeah.
in negotiations, for a district, it's the best way to really solidify for health and welfare
Yeah,
is to just
I
put a
would
hard
sign.
cap, because it makes it easier to plan out that way for budgeting. But, I could have sworn I saw that in the TA, the most recent TA for teachers. And,
You double
and
check that?
classified,
Yeah, I'll go back
classified
and
is
check
that.
generally the same.
That would be helpful,
Yeah,
so that we're all clear on.
I
And then
thought
the
it was still
raises,
90%.
I mean, the raises is
Right, the
huge.
raises,
Yes.
yeah, huge.
The raises
You know?
were, just so that you're aware, it was 1.36 million for just the retro for last
I was gonna say, that's the part that I think probably was overlooked,
year. And it was
is that we
over,
had retro.
The retro.
over 800,000 in, the retirement incentives.
all right,
What do we have to do
this is a action item, so we have to approve this 45-day budget revision. Do you want some more discussion on this?
Yeah, just,
Go
a
ahead.
little bit on next steps, just so that we're all clear in the public. You did mention that this is just,
Well, this is as I understand it, and then we'll have Erica or Sarah, let's see if I can do a little synopsis, and if I'm incorrect, they will correct me. The way I understand it is that we're going to approve this, and what's going to happen is they are continuing to work on this, and we will be qualified, we will have a qualified budget for this year and the next 2 years, correct?
There's going to be discussions, and it's going to be based on what our LCAP ends up looking like. I know that there is, two schools of thought in the sense of that we would receive the letter qualifying our budget from the county. There's also an opportunity for the district to, work within its parameters with the board, and one, either self-qualify, or two, just work through to try to alleviate the pressure on the board by these kinds of measures that we're going to talk about, that we've talked about, so that we can prove and demonstrate that we're working towards that, and the budget would not be qualified.
Okay. So approving this shows that we are working towards it. Yes, well, of course, we're doing that. Then we will continue for next year and the year after. I think a lot of what we're gonna have some very tough decisions to make next year about intervention teachers and PE teachers. That's gonna be, I think, our biggest decisions as a board that we're gonna have to make.
But let me ask you this, John, does it have to, is that like a done, isolated, like this is the target idea, or are we still able to be like, well, what else
Can we do?
can we do to avoid that?
Well,
I just gotta put it out, only because you said the PE, I gotta put it out, I just saw this statistic yesterday, about, and you all know that, today, about how children, there was an increase in eating disorders and weight loss and gain. How does that correlate? So I want us to be very thoughtful and maybe not say PE teachers now, and
Well,
maybe just
I
say,
agree.
let's look at what we can, but I know that was a target
I think that, I agree with you. I think that there's a way that we can, through attrition, retirements and people moving and things like this. I think if I was a PE teacher and I was single subject, I might be looking that I might wanna get some kind of another, credential, so I can teach something else. So that's important that we throw that out there so people are prepared. But I think that there could be ways that we could maybe, through attrition, be able to accommodate everyone and not lose anybody. That would be the best case scenario. But can we guarantee that we're gonna have PE teachers for every school? I don't know. I don't wanna make a promise we can't keep.
But if we're I'm just being devil's advocate right now.
Sure.
But if we're revising and reimagining our LCAP,
Right,
Isn't there room in that revising and reimagining platform to put a focus?
on physical education.
Correct. Because
I
I'm
agree.
seeing also as it's been reported as part of the social emotional support, that
Absolutely.
physical, that's a way that some people process stress and trauma and things like that,
Oh.
so,
It's big time.
yeah,
I
so.
loved PE as a kid. It was my
Sure.
favorite activity.
I'm just saying that this may be a gift
Mhm.
in that we have to do this work,
And make us think
that we
more
can
outside the
really have
box.
some, start thinking, more creatively and just see, it may not be possible, but it's worth taking a look at.
I agree.
I would recommend that I can put together a report to explain the LCAP and what budget items perhaps we are looking at in this list. And so that you can see if we impact one, what's gonna happen to the others.
Right.
So we have two things that we, I think as a board, as a governance team, are going to have to consider, is that we have the deficit spending in the second and third year of the multi-year projection. So that's one piece of the puzzle. The other piece of the puzzle is that the budget was built in such a way that does not have 12 PE teachers built into it. So not only are we going to have to save money to get us out of the deficit spending, then we would also have to save money to put the 12 people
Correct.
FTE back in.
Right.
So we will have to work together as a team to make the necessary changes during this process so that it reflects the priorities of the board.
See, and I also believe that we have a moral responsibility to tell our PE teachers
Yeah, I know what you mean.
that,
They're not in there. They're
well,
not in there.
yeah, and that we have to tell them that, this would be the time to get another credential. Some of them already have the units, so they can get a supplemental, they already have it. But we need to tell them now, because then we're not being fair to them. And I just, we just have to tell them this. And hopefully we can fix this.
Right.
And that there's mistakes that are there. But I couldn't live with myself if we're not upfront with this.
Sure.
So a big part of, for me is, working with this and developing it and creating, almost like study sessions.
There you go.
And so that we're not just working amongst ourselves
Yes.
or the board with cabinet, because a big part of the study session is for these discussions to be heard by our bargaining partners and or parents that choose to, participate, so that they're, just like when we did the cuts and we brought things back, we included them in those discussions. And just as when we are struggling and going through some challenging times and working together and building that understanding, because, and that comes through those collaborative conversations, in my opinion.
Right. You're
Because
right.
it isn't you against me,
No.
or it's us, and we're here for kids. And so what we planned isn't materializing because it just wasn't, we weren't unfortunately savvy enough to ask better questions. And I take ownership as a board member, that's
I
on
do
me.
too. I do too.
That's on me to where we are now. So, I don't wanna say mistakes were made, but I think
It is on us.
that's why I say the LCAP and the budget is so hard to really understand. There's so many moving parts. It's like looking at an engine and for us to point to where this is, and I'm like, I don't know,
Well,
And so, you know, if I'm getting a presentation and this is blah, 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 and it's like, okay, my job isn't to really know it like Sarah does. I'm just hoping she's telling me the parts that I need to know to make the best decision. But then again, you know, we are where we are, and let's work together in figuring a way how to change things. But at least this way we're all on the same page, working towards the same goal.
I like your idea of a study session. I didn't even think of that. Can
Yeah.
we do that?
yes, we can, absolutely, I agree.
Well, I mean, I'm looking to Erica and Sarah, because they'd be the ones to
Yep.
lead us in this study session, you know, and that's a great
I
idea.
think that is an excellent idea.
We've done them in the past, that's
Yeah.
why. It's,
Great idea.
and it works. I know it's time consuming, but again, it builds that trust that we have to maintain.
I think we have to do it, and you know, we have to, to get ourselves on the right footing. Absolutely.
And now we gain their trust, you know, even with our unions and knowing and understanding so that when Erica is at the table, it's not like, oh, you know, I don't believe you. No, it's true, this is where we're at, so.
We figure this out together.
Yeah, and as we were moving, maybe they think of another idea as to how we can support one another and the district to make reductions where we need to and whatnot, but, you know, let's try to see if we can come together and
Right,
get through this.
that's what we've got to do. So, any more discussion on this, guys?
Thank you.
I think it was a good discussion, I'm glad we did this, so we can, have it out. How do we, wanna make,
Have to approve it? What is?
yeah, yes, we do, but how do we wanna make the motion?
How is this
Is there a
presented
special
or
way?
needed, the heading for approval?
Okay, that's all we have to do?
Budget revision?
Okay, that's all we have to do. So who would like to make the motion? Are you gonna make it, Elizabeth?
I'll make
Is it
the,
an action? It says discussion.
it should have been an action.
No, it's an action item, 6.
Oh, this one.
It
Six
just says
days of
discussion,
discussion of
but it
45 day
should-
budget revision.
It should
But
say,
wait, are we approving,
yeah.
No,
are we approving the presentation
Oh,
as
this one?
submitted?
As submitted, if you, and then you can add in, you know, that you were requesting
well, we can make,
a study session, or if you want the presentation on the LCAP next week,
Okay.
you know, because we did talk about that at this time, if you wanted to add those things in, you would just do that.
Okay. So I make a motion that we approve, today the presentation of the 45-day budget revision as presented, and also the, upcoming meeting to present the, revisions to the LCAP based on what needs to change. And, also look to see, in building in the study sessions to work on developing what, this out year and whatever areas of reduction and into next year and the following year. And create those study sessions this year so that we can work together to find some collaborative solutions to this.
I second that.
okay, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
5-2. Okay, I need a motion to, convene the closed session.
So.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're going to close the closed session. Good evening, everybody. It is 9:25, and we're reconvening to open session. We finished closed session, and we don't have anything to report. May I have a motion to end the
To adjourn.
evening, to adjourn?
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So we